Okay, so today we're going to be talking about rate and unit rate. Like we've done fractions, we've done decimals. Now this is kind of the natural progression. Like I said, a fraction, we have our top, our numerator, and our denominator. So this is just kind of a version of a fraction. We call it a rate, and a rate is just a way to compare two amounts that have different units. So like I said, you've interacted with them your whole life, even if you have not realized it. The most common one you've probably heard is miles per hour. Like I said, we're talking about two different units of measurement. So miles, we're talking about distance, but hours, we're talking about time. So we've got we're measuring two different things, but that's what we've got that rate. Is for every hour, we're going so many miles. For every hour we work, we're making so many dollars. And it's like I said, we can see the rate is just kind of the big picture. It's the whole thing. We're not really looking at the hour, we're looking at the whole 8-hour day, I made $96. The whole 2-day road trip, we went 36 miles. So it's kind of the big picture. But then if you're wanting to get a little more granular and say, well, I know I'm going 36 miles in 2 days, but how do I know how far I need to go on that first day? How do I know when I've gone far enough that I can stop and rest for the night? And so if you're wanting to get that specific, you would just break it down a little bit and do a unit rate, which is just going to be a rate with a denominator of 1 unit. So like I said, in the other one, we have $96 per hour, or $96 for every 8 hours we work. And so now we're going to try and see how many dollars we're going to have in an hour, in just 1 hour. So we're going to have 96, and we're going to divide it by 8. 8 will go into 9 one time, with 1 left over. And we'll bring you 6 down. Now 8 will go into 16 twice. And so we bring this 12 over. And so if we're making $96 in an entire 8-hour workday, then we're making $12 every hour we're at work. So you would just divide your top number by your bottom number. And so like I said, we have here now, we're going 36 miles in 2 days. So 2 goes into 3 once. We're leaving 1 left over. We're going to bring the 6 down. Now 2 will go into 16 8 times. And so again, we just bring it over. And so 18 miles is how far we're going on day 1. And then if we, as long as we stick to that, as long as we go 18, we're going 18 miles on both days, because that's going to be exactly half, and it's divided even. Now, sometimes you can have to convert your rates. It's not always going to be even like that. Like I said, for this example right here, most football fields, they have their hash marks 10 yards apart. So it would be 1 at 10, 1 at 20, 1 at 30, 40, and so on. But LSU is different. I think they're the only college that does every 5 yards. So you can see it's 5, 10, 15, 20. It's every 5 yards instead. So we know that between every stripe, there is 5 yards. But now I want to figure out how many feet are between each stripe. So to do that, if I'm trying to figure that out, they don't tell us that. We can look at it, we can see 5 yards between every stripe. But they don't have the feet measured. So we got to figure that out. So to figure that out, we would just see how many feet are in each yard. And that may be something you already know. You may be hollering at me through your screen, giving the answer. But 1 yard, there are 3 feet in 1 yard. And so if there are 3 feet in 1 yard, we would just do 3 times 5, because we're talking about 5 yards, which would give us 15. So if there are 5 yards between every stripe, that means there are 15 feet between every stripe also. And so there are some common conversions. Like I said, 12 inches is 1 foot, 3 feet are in 1 yard, like we just said. 5,280 feet are in 1 mile. That's most of the standard ones. And then you can get into the metric measurements, which could be a little more difficult, a little more tricky. Like I said, you have the 1 centimeter is equal to 10 millimeters, and then 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters. And that's kind of where it comes in. If you know your prefixes, it's not going to be so difficult, because if you know that centi means 100, then you'll know that the centimeter, there's 100 centimeters in 1 meter. Like I said, we have the millimeter. The milli means 1,000. But there are 1,000 millimeters in 1 meter. So again, if you know your prefixes, you can break it down pretty simply. 1 kilometer, again, is 1,000 meters. So it would just be like that. So like I said, we're gonna convert right here. We have an example. We're making $15 an hour at this job. Wherever, it can be whatever. You're making $15 an hour. But for some reason, you decide, I want to work it out. I want to know how much I'm making each minute. I want to know how many dollars I'm making each minute. And so we would just say, we would break it down. And you probably all know this, there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. So there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. And so for each, that's what we would do. We broke our 1 hour into 60 minutes. So now we're gonna break our $15 into 60 portions and see. So we have 60 going into 15. Now 60 will not go into 15, but you remember from earlier, we can do a 0, we can put our decimal, and we can add a 0 right here. Now 60 will go into 150 twice, which would be 120. And we would subtract 150 minus 120, 0 minus 0 would be 0, 5 minus 2 is gonna be 3, and then we're just not gonna, that's gonna be 0. So now we have 30 left over. Now 60 won't go into 30, but we can't have but 1 decimal. So since we already dropped it right here, we cannot do it again. We just have to keep going. So 60 will go into 30. Well, 60 is twice as much as 30, so it won't go. So 30 is like half of 60. So you're from the decimals, 0.5 is 50%, is 1/2. So we're just gonna add our 5 right here. And that's it. If you're making $15 an hour, you're making 25 cents every minute. Like I said, we know 1 hour is 60 minutes, and so like I said, $15 an hour would be 25 cents per minute. And then I have some practice questions written out. Like I said, you can pause this, write them down, do it on your own. Like I said, we have a printer that can make 150 copies in 15 minutes. So you can see for all these, I've given you the rate, but I want you to find the unit rate. So like I said, we have this printer that can spit out 150 copies in 15 minutes. I want you to find how many copies it can make each minute. And then now we're going on a road trip. We're going 221 miles. It's gonna take us 4 hours to get there. So I wanna find how many miles we're going each hour. And so that's gonna be the speed. You can figure out speed using unit rate. If we know how far we're going and how long it's gonna take us to get there, then we can figure out miles per hour and we can get the speed. Like I said, number 3, we have $173 for an 8-hour workday. So we're just trying to calculate the hourly rate. And then number 4, we have $57.40 spent on 4 movie tickets. So we're trying to break that down and find the price of each individual ticket. So like I said, just write these down, work them out, and get some practice with unit rates.